Ah, yes, it is nice to be in a car where the front end feels like it doesn't weigh 18.5 tons. We are in the 911 GTS. Supposedly the Swiss Army knife of Porsches. Does it all, and just like a Swiss Army knife, if you hang around with one on the streets for long enough, you're probably just as likely to get arrested. It is a very naughty car indeed, a lot of fun, and the instant realization and recollection of getting back into a car with connected steering, really connected steering, is a wonderful thing. There's no dead zone in this at all. Really light on the wheel, just 2 centimeters to the left and to the right, the car responds. It does something. You don't get that in the Taycan. And of course the 911 has been around for ages, 60 years now, so if they haven't got it right by now, then something has gone very wrong indeed. And yes, the 911s just seem to get better and better, albeit more refined. I mean, the rawness of the 993 turbo, or any 993 air-cooled platform compared to this, which is much more refined, is something you kind of have to get used to a little bit. Maybe sometimes forget you're in a Porsche when you're flying up the road, but this GTS is lovely. It is in GT silver, which I think is the best looking silver colour on the road right now by a long way. And I'm not a personal fan of silver cars, but the spec on this is lovely, albeit very basic. It is just matte black wheels. You see the red calipers because it's a GTS, and of course that GT silver colour. But it looks absolutely great. What is it like to drive? Well, of course, this is a 992.1, and this is a turbocharged GTS. So this is a 3-litre 8-speed turbocharged car, and you do notice it's a smaller engine before the turbos have spooled up, but once they have spooled up, you really do start to hear that it is a turbocharged car. It just feels, the noise feels a little bit restricted, and you get that kind of hissy sound. In fact, because we have a sunroof here and windows, what I will do is just pop the sports exhaust on there, get it into Sport Plus, and yeah, you kind of get that weird hissy sound, which I really like, to be honest, but it's not the same as you would get in a 992 turbo, a 991 turbo. Bigger engine, and you really hear that turbo whine. And Porsche wanted to make this as close to a naturally aspirated car as possible, and they've kind of done that. And I think if you, of course, really want naturally aspirated, then just put these up again so that you can hopefully hear me. The other one in this series to go for is, of course, the GT3, but getting a GT3 allocation is going to be a lot harder. Of course, in the GT3 you get that 4-litre engine, 500 brake horsepower, less torque, but that is fine because it's designed to be spanked round a racetrack at nearly 9,000 RPM all day long. Unlike this, red line looks like it kicks in at about 7.5. Turbocharged cars not necessarily redlining quite as high. But do I like this car to be in? Of course I do. I mean, it's a Porsche. They just look stunning. The handling is very good. Bit of coarse springs in this. Let's get it back down to comfort mode there. Relax a little bit. So the springs in this, of course, and the Taycan is all air suspension. So the Taycan, I have to say, is much better on the roads, and the reason for that is because UK roads are, without wanting to sound too rude, they're terrible. And of course you feel every bump in the road in this car. And this one doesn't have nose lift at the front. I'm told, I've heard a few people say now that without nose lift, the front end just feels a little bit better, a little bit more composed. You can get the GT4 RS with nose lift at the front, and apparently the one without nose lift is a bit better. The nose lift, the lack of nose lift on this though means that the front is quite scraped. Wasn't me, promise Gov, when I picked this car up, it was already very scraped. And Porsche have at least thought about that. It's a very cheap replaceable plastic bit of trim, which is great, unlike other marques where you can end up doing considerable damage to carbon fibre should the worst happen. But yeah, it is a very well thought out bit of frontage there. It is still very composed, but I wouldn't want to go any harder. I don't think I'd want a GT3 for road use. I think they're so hard, so firm, you just end up getting a little bit tired. GT3 Touring, on the other hand, now you're talking potentially. It is so well put together. There's a few creaks and rattles. You get 2 seats in the back there that you can fit 4 adults in this car comfortably. Or maybe not. We tried this last night and yeah, it was interesting, but it is a very nice place to be. Of course, those of you that are familiar with Porsches and the PCM system, it's exactly the same as the Taycan. Let's take a look at the driving position of this car, and it is absolutely wonderful. Also, we'll take a little look at the dashboard, the layout, how easy it is to access those controls. But first up, the driving position. So you can draw a straight line down here, and it is absolutely straight down the middle of your body, which is fantastic. You don't feel like you're off to the left or to the right. Your left foot offset to the left of that line and right foot offset to the right of that line for the brake and the accelerator. Perfectly, really nice setup there. I've seen, you know, some other cars where you feel like you're off to the right a bit or to the left, or it's not quite perfectly balanced, but this is a really nice straight line down the middle. And the seat is lovely, nice comfort there, although not very adjustable in this because it's pretty much the base spec. The wheel itself, I've spoken about Porsche wheels before, find them too small, too narrow. I'd like something a bit chunkier to hold, maybe a bit more profiled. Also, the material, Alcantara, for me, no, I don't like Alcantara. I don't think it lasts well over time. It tends to go a bit flat, a bit matted, a bit gross. Leather is the one for me. Also, doesn't quite provide you with as much grip, I think, if you're moving your hand around the wheel. Fine if you've got race gloves on, I'm sure, but if you just got normal bare hands, then for me, no, I'd stick to leather. It just looks a bit better and lasts a little bit longer as well. Gear lever, very easy to access. No issues there at all. You of course have the classic Porsche driving mode there that will select wet, normal, Sport, Sport Plus and individual. Sport Plus for the most fun, of course. That's the one to keep it on. Sport Plus will also activate the exhaust here. You've got the exhaust loud and less loud. It is very, very quiet, and actually a significant difference between the loud and the quiet modes, which is pretty good because sometimes it doesn't tend to do much, but in this, very good. You've got the programmable button there, and here as well I've got this one set to do the exhaust, and this one here is currently unprogrammed. Heated seats right there, the manual button there, so you can select this to use your flappy paddles and it will stay in manual for as long as you tell it to, which is great. Won't override as you'd expect in a car of this nature. These controls here for the steering wheel, voice control there. You can't help me right now, thank you very much for your time. But really nice layout, and you know, if you're familiar with Porsche, then this will be no surprise to you. You should feel right at home here. Another thing I really like, this car obviously has the sunroof, and the controls are not here because it's a pain in the butt, I think, having to kind of fart around up here when you're trying to find the sunroof. They're down here. The controls for the sunroof are all down here, so you very simply access the controls from down there, and it couldn't be any easier. So that is a nice touch. Well done. And what more is there to say, really? It is very nicely laid out. I've got access to everything. I can reach everything. It is comfy. I wouldn't mind spending a long time in here at all. Lots of headroom as well, and I'm a tall guy. So, yeah, I mean, as I said at the start of this video, this car has been around for time. The 911 has been around for time. These guys know what they're doing. Very easy to live with. You have, of course, an analog analog RPM readout in front of you, which is cool. I think you're going to lose that with the 992.2 when that releases. But you know, should you buy one of these now? Well, for me, it is not probably a good time to buy, because of course you've got the 992.2 coming imminently, which you know, for me is probably going to be the one to look out for. And having a look at the new turbo variant of that, is it going to be a hybrid? All these questions that kind of sit in the mind with that car. But it is an incredibly expensive. Oh, and I should say, this is the two-wheel drive GTS, right? Rear-wheel drive only, which is of course the one to get. If you're going to go four-wheel drive, get the turbo, get one with more power, if you ask me. But you know, should you buy one of these cars? Well, no. And the reason is, I think it is a lot of money. £125,000 for the rear-wheel drive car, new, before any options. It's a lot of money to get on board with, I think, for a Porsche 911. The turbo now, the 911 turbo, I think is 160. The Turbo S is 180. That's pushing 200k. But you can get a discount on them now. We've seen that in previous videos, right? So, you know, maybe shop around for a used one potentially. But it is great, this car. I love the spoiler at the rear. I've always, since I've been a kid on the 911s, the self-raising rear spoiler that you used to get on the Carrera was just so cool. And of course it's present on this, and you can manually raise it. And the only clue you would get that it is actually raised is just by peeking out of the left wing mirror there, just to kind of see that it's popped up at the back. But it does look great when it's popped up, and it is just very good. So the interior layout, the driving position, as I say, this is a basic spec. It is a really good seat, no headrest though, which isn't ideal. I'd prefer a bit of headrest, to be fair, so I'd probably configure that if I could. And the pedal layout is just perfect. Left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator, spot on. And just around the roads in comfort mode, it's great. 8-speed box, gets up through the gears wonderfully fast, so it's not fussing around at all. You get into sport mode, instantly picks up, so quick, love it, absolutely brilliant, and just sounds naughty as well. I'm glad they've got the sound right in this, because so often with turbocharged cars, with modern cars, they really do have to restrict the sound of the exhaust. And of course you've got the toggle mode here for the exhaust, which I've configured on the steering wheel button here, so it's nice and easy to access. But it is a really, really nice car, and I think the thing I love the most about this car, I have to say, is the way it looks. You cannot find a dull angle with the 911, 992. I think it is the best looking Porsche that has ever been made, and I'm a kind of 993 guy. I think that's probably, it's a toss up between the 993 and the 992 in terms of the best looking Porsches ever to see the light of day. But absolutely wonderful car, this. And would I get back into one from the Taycan? I don't think so, for the reasons I've discussed. But it's hard not to love a 911, just the responsiveness of the thing. Great car. That's it for this one. Do stay safe. So see you in the next one. Bye for now.